Join us for a driving review with the BMW X1, of course, as the most recent facelift or update. And here now the new review of the BMW X1 plug-in hybrid, the 25e. So join us here for this review of the PHEV in exterior, interior and the electrified driving experience. Some charging stations here just behind us. And of course here on Autogefuehl, you know, always goes in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so far, and thank you so much for all long-term subscribers. Here the BMW X1, since the most recent facelift, has this stronger front double kidney, more aligned with the bigger SUV brothers, and X1 and X2 are the only BMW SUVs that are built in Germany, in Regensburg, whereas the bigger SUVs, beginning from the X3, are all built in Spartanburg in the US. Headlamps still come with halogen as base. Why? They want your money. For the optional updates, here the LED or the optional adaptive LED, then more sophisticated function, and then they also have different daytime running light. This is really beautifully done here, right there. Yeah, that's how it is with the German premium manufacturers. This here is the Model M Sport, and that means a sportier style here with stronger lower bumpers and stronger fake air intakes right there, and this honeycomb structure really looks pretty cool, especially in this Storm Bay metallic special paint that was introduced with the facelift. What's your take? Filming in the rain is not pleasant, but looking at cars with raindrops on the paint, that's really beautiful. Length 4 meters 44, 175 inches or 14 foot 5. And now, ladies and gentlemen, get your drinks ready, because the drinking game here is, from which side will I enter the stage? Today from this one. Have you guessed it? So, here the X1 has this more upright shape, but is somewhat between crossover and big SUVs. The X3, the bigger brother, is longer and also more upright, has the longer front hood. This one here just with the transverse engine mount, that means a shorter hood and no 6-cylinder engines then in this case. Here the Model M Sport has the black frames and also the stronger side skirt here, and also wheel arches painted in vehicle color. There are also other, for example, the base X1 would have plastic wheel arches. Then there's also the X line, which has more this contrasting off-road scheme. So depending on what you like. Wheels from 17 to 19 inch wheels. These are indeed the optional, the biggest ones, the 19 inch wheels. So I think design-wise, not too screaming out, but I think, you know, nice accentuations. Dropping line here at the height of the door handle. You can see here how it's curved in. So overall, I think a nice and decent job. And again, this paint here with the raindrops, really cool effects here just visually wise. On the technology side, usually you have a base suspension, then you have a fixed M Sport suspension, 10 millimeters lower, and then an adaptive suspension for the X1 in general. Here, the plug-in hybrid version goes an own way, because it would have been too expensive to develop so many different suspensions, especially for this model. 150 kilograms or 300 pounds of extra weight from that battery, and then they would need to adapt the suspension. So what they did here is they choose a suspension between the base suspension and the M Sport. So this suspension sits lower like the M Sport, but does not have the stiff setup like the M Sport. So setup from the base suspension, but the height from the M Sport suspension, then specifically developed then here for the plug-in hybrid model. I'm really looking forward if this is a good setup they found here for this model. Soon more to that in the driving part. The X1 here in the rear, also rather conservative design, but I think it definitely still works. 25E here, the logo for the plug-in hybrid. The M Sport model here spices it a little bit up here with the grey insert. Very interesting design choice. And the Autogefuehl fake exhaust police could stay at home today, so they're taking a coffee break because this is a real exhaust from that combustion engine. The concept is combustion engine in the front powers the front axle and electric motor in the rear powers the rear axle. That means, although it's a front-wheel based platform here with the X1, when you drive in the electric-only mode, yes, you have a rear-wheel driven BMW once again. The BMW X1 plug-in hybrid, yes, we're having a lot of fun here today, Jonas and I, as always. So, the plug-in hybrid 25E has the combustion engine here in the front, 125 horsepower, plus electric motor in the rear, 95 horsepower. Combined power then, 220 horsepower, 6.9 seconds is the acceleration figure, 0 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And the range, about 50 kilometers pure electric, about 30 miles pure electric for this one. Power-wise, yeah, half a second slower approximately than the 25i, 28i called in US, or the 25D. So it is also one of the top spec engines then. So the other combustion engines are 2-liter 4-cylinder, petrol or diesel. At the diesel side, there's even a 3-cylinder in place. Charging port is here on the driver's side. 3.7 kilowatt maximum AC charging. Yeah, that's not too fast, but usually if you leave it overnight, it's okay. And then you can get this 10 kilowatt hour battery full, 10 kilowatt hour gross, and 8.8 kilowatt hour net. And if you think about buying a used vehicle, here's a short sponsored message by Car Vertical. The Car Vertical website lets you check the history of the vehicle before buying it. You enter the VIN, the vehicle identification number, or we just say VIN in Germany. Usually you can read it here at the outside of the vehicle, and then you can check, does it really have the proper mileage, or has it been manipulated at one point? Is there any damage to the car beforehand without knowing it? Is what you're reading about the vehicle, maybe online, really true? So you can just be sure before buying this used vehicle. We also have a video description link and also in the pinned comment to the Car Vertical website. This is the car key, slim and light, and in the M Sport model also with the M colors at the side. Keyless entry when you put your finger here on this, usually it's here at BMWs, but here they put it there. So here are this, mini vortex generators, you could say. Yeah, I don't know. You just feel this perforation. And on the inside then with your hand right there. And door closing sound. Ah, beautiful door closing sound, I love that. Then soft touch top part material. Then you have a matte wood insert here. So there are different inserts available. Again, this is a nice matte wood insert. Really cool. Then leatherette at the inside of the door. BMW SensorTech, that's their brand name for the leatherette. And here some decent inner door pockets. Yeah, for example, for COVID-19 masks. Okay, not really COVID-19 proof, but they're just a little bit more comfortable to wear these. Then you can open the trunk from here and also the fuel cap. So this is not for the electric one, but for the fuel. Then the interior, and again, M Sport. Some nice panels and steering wheel, M Sport steering wheel. So a little bit sportier. Zoom more to all the gauges and stuff and infotainment. As for seating, you start, at least in Europe, with the base fabric seat. And then optional with a little sportier seat here, where you can, for example, get a fabric SensorTech mix that would be animal free. And in the US, you can get animal-free sensor tag in this color, in beige and also in black. However, this is the optional animal skin equipment, which is not really necessary. Let's spare these and just go for the other nice options they do offer. And again, as I said, also in different colors. That's cool to have, definitely. So let's get on the inside. And this car here sits between crossovers and SUV, I would say. It's not like a super large SUV, but already feels decent as for the upright seating position. I have had more comfortable cars, and when I compare the seating position with the competitors, I wouldn't say it's the worst, but I wouldn't say it's the best. Headroom with 1.86 or 6 with 1, yeah, that still works, definitely no problem. It will be different maybe with the rear bench because of plug-in hybrid. Let's find out more about that very soon. Here there's also the electric seating setup, front, the back part, also then here the side bolsters and the top part you can control, and also with the 2 memory seatings. And you have a good overview already to front. The front screen is screened, let's say, in a panoramic way. And now we'll concentrate then soon on the gauges. Last but not least, here you can put in the steering wheel in and out. It's a nice round shape here. The bigger BMWs often have a stranger M steering wheel. The M steering wheel here in this car has a great shape, I think. And the optional steering wheel heating is placed right there. You know, from the big BMWs, it's usually on the steering wheel in the front, but here it's still then here, like left next to the column. Why not? And since we're here anyway, let's check out this. This, you know, premium vehicle, and let's just repeat it 5 times. See how nicely dampened this small cubbyhole is when I put my Colt in here, you know, for some discussions. Interior overview, this is rather a classic setup. It's not all, you know, one of their newest vehicles, so we still have a lot of buttons left, but it's great to have still a manual climate unit, for example, so some old schooling is definitely good. Here again the matte wood insert, really nicely done. This screen is like popped up, but it somehow mirrors in design the lower part, so I think you can do that. And then the bright style here also with soft touch is also nice. Top dashboard is also soft touch. The screen setup is a little bit complicated. On the left side, these are analog gauges, but it's like a black panel technology. So you see it's all blacked out right now, and when I turn on the ignition, then it comes to life, but it's just the backlighting that does that. The screen here is either 2.7 inch, that would be just the small one here, or then this one here is the bigger one, 5.7, so almost 6 inches, and it goes like this, so the right part as well, but still no full digital gauges here on the left side. On the right side, you start with a 6.5 inch screen, optional 8.8 inch, and then this is the optional 10.25 inch screen. And when you have a bigger one on the right, you also have the bigger one on the left. One exception, our friends in the US do not get this screen. Same software, but just a smaller 8.8 inch, because the airbag is placed in a different way because of different safety regulations, and then there wasn't space for the tech that was needed for the bigger screen. Okay. So more things about the software here. This is still OS 6, not the most recent BMW operating system 7, which features the natural voice input and so on and so on. And so no over-the-air updates with this system right here. Now, steering wheel, you have an overview once again here, where on the right side you can control the volume. Also, let's say a basic voice input is also available for this car. Left side then to control the cruise control, and these rubber pads here, they are updated now for the newer BMWs, but here, I mean, they give you good grip, but still doesn't resonate to the rest of the premium quality. Then let's move to the middle part, where we have this gear selector, which is standing out quite, you know, like van-ish, maybe a little bit too unsporty, I don't know. Then you can pick the driving modes, the normal driving modes, and also the e-driving modes, and we'll show you these a little bit sooner. Then in the front part you have it shut, or can open it for the cup holders. They are adaptive, and you have a USB-A charger. However, the Apple CarPlay here works in a wireless way, so you usually would then use the inductive charging pad, which is somewhere else. Let's move towards there. Here you can see there's this classic knob turning and pressing. It is a touchscreen, yes, but this you can also then use while driving. And then there's this nice armrest here, very well attached. You can also adjust it in height. And below that, the first split is the place for your smartphone. A little bit complicated here how it's put in there, but it's also then connected to the car antenna and also is actually then charging inductively. And you can also put that whole thing up. Then you have some more storage underneath with the USB-C port. So this software version is not as current, so to speak, as the OS 7, but still it's easy enough. So you have this app view right here. You also can use it in a touch way. As for the fuel economy for this plug-in hybrid, by the way, this is our, after we have reset it, it's quite interesting. 4.5 liters on 100 kilometers or 4.8 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. This is actually very decent, and you can see it's like playing together. Both values are quite low, but they're low because both energy and fuel is being used at the same time. Then you can see the map looks like this. Always a good overview. The BMW GPS software, to me, one of the best. I've never had like a wrong intersection or way when I was at a driving event with BMW. Then, yeah, that was my vehicle. We had already the CarPlay has here a hotkey when you turn all the way to the left, for example. Integration does not go all the way over the screen, but still quite nice. And here we have the optional Harman Kardon sound system. And this is, as expected, a very, very nice option. Once again, the instruments here with the black panel technology. So you see it almost looks digital, but it isn't. Just here, the lower part then is the digital one, and there, for example, you can see then more of the consumption here, like for both for the electric and also for the combustion engine. So that's what you can change. Everything else rather remains the same, but I think it does job. It's very clear to read as well. And the head-up display you can see here with the current speed, allowed speed, and also a GPS arrow. Yeah, it's always a nice option, clear to read, that you just keep your sight on the road. Now to the rear compartment, and here comes the only practical catch of the X1 plug-in hybrid. You can see here, nice also at the inside of the door, soft touch here top part, then again the matte wood, very beautifully done, high build quality. And there it is, the rear bench. Maybe you don't see it, but I can tell you it's about 3 centimeters or a little bit more than an inch higher than in the normal version, because they need to store the battery underneath there. So that means you do lose some headroom, but how much can I still sit there as a tall adult? Let's check it out. In comparison to the X3, by the way, legroom wise, the X1 doesn't lose too much. You can see also this recess here at the back part of the seat, so you can still sit here as a tall adult, even though when a tall adult is driving. And well, I feel that the bench is a little bit higher than in the normal version, but still, without the panoramic roof, it's no problem, still enough headroom. It might be a problem when you have tall adults in the rear and the optional panoramic roof. That might be something, but I think we can live with that. And also the option of the movable bench, that would usually be one of the nice options. This is also not possible then here in the plug-in hybrid. But I think we could also live with that. So this then the fixed bench like it is right there. What you can still do is changing the angle of this seat here. So in the back part you can more have a receiving position or more an upright position. This is still possible here for all 3 segments individually. Isofix at the outside parts. Then you have this middle armrest with adaptive cup holders. And once again, told you earlier, you can also just use this middle part here as a ski hatch, release it here with this latch, and then you could move it forward. And the middle tunnel here is still quite okay. There are 2 USB-C chargers since the recent facelift now in the middle. And can I also sit in the middle part? It's of course a little bit higher than together with the higher bench, but still works. Not too comfortable for my knees. I have to put them inside or then in this recess on the outside. But when I sit like this then here, it might not be too comfortable here for my passengers right and left to me, right? So normal BMW X1 trunk is about 500 liters to 1,500 liters. What do you lose here with the plug-in hybrid? Well, almost nothing. First of all, electric hatch here opens quite nicely. We have a backpack in here. You can see the sample works in here very well. Square dimensions, so they can very well use it. I already folded one of the seats here. And the only thing you do lose on the top part, hardly anything, just below here. Then it's a little bit more shallow, so that's still okay. Then you can store your charging cables here, for example. And the measurements in the length to the front seat, about 90 centimeters. In the width, this is almost a meter, and the height below the cover is 40 centimeters. The total height here is a little bit less than 80 centimeters. It's like 74 centimeters approximately. So very well usable. So the usage of space once again here is quite good. And when you have here, you can have a 1-1-1 split, so to say. And here this is 1.70 meters, so you can fold all the seats, of course, but maybe just the middle part like this. So however you like it. Overall, I think a good result here also in the rear. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the BMW X1 plug-in hybrid. And we're going through the different driving modes, tell all about the electric driving, and of course also about this, playing together with the combustion engine. It's very interesting with the e-driving modes and the normal driving modes that are available. First of all, something general about the X1. It feels quite good from the overview. So this windscreen is a little bit panoramic alike. And you don't feel too high, so it's not this high sophisticated seating position as in the X3. However, also if you compare this to the previous generation X1, it feels more elaborated. It's somewhat in between crossover and SUV, I would say. Crisp steering feeling, very direct, very good. And also noise cancellation wise, here at 70 kilometers an hour, it's really good, very silent experience. And at the moment, we're driving all electric, so there's no engine noise. It was also very silent and relaxing when we just were starting. I can also check the RPMs here in this black panel design instrument if it's going on. And then there are 3 different EV driving modes available. There is the Auto e-drive, so this is a car decides on its own. And then there are 2 e-drive modes available. One for that you only have the EV driving, and the other one for, he says, save, so then you save the battery for later when you might need it in the future, no emission zone or so. So 3 different modes available. Again, usually you would leave it in the Auto e-drive mode, because for plug-in hybrid this is usually the best solution, because for most plug-in hybrid it doesn't make sense that you just deplete the electric drive and that's it. But it depends on, if you have a short commute, then this might make sense. So meanwhile, for example, here on the motorway, the combustion engine is on. You hardly realize that. There's a smooth transition for that here at 2000 RPM. And when I get off the throttle, then some regeneration is happening. And here the RPMs drop to 0. I'm in the electric mode again. And when I just slightly press the throttle, sometimes it can stay in the electric mode, but sometimes in this case, hops on because the car decides what is actually the best to do at this very moment. And the acceleration figure here for the plug-in hybrid is 6.9 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, and that means it's a little bit slower than the 25i or 25D, but definitely comparable, also one of the top models, so you're not lacking power. No matter in which mode you are, when you are flooring it out throttle-wise, then the combustion engine always goes on as a safety mechanism. And here, for example, we can do the acceleration when we're already at speed 100 to 120. Plop, that's it. So you see, it's not the most powerful engine overall, but still sufficient. Most engines that are available for the X1 are actually less powerful. So here once again with the driving modes, this would be one Max eDrive and Max eDrive or Max eDrive Safe. There you can see how it changes here. Auto eDrive, this will be again the automatic. Max eDrive, I want to drive all electric. Safe, this is then saving battery for later. I could do that here on the motorway, but again, that's not a very efficient thing to do. Now the speed limit is being lifted, so we can do one more acceleration, how that one behaves from 100 kilometers an hour. Oh, a couple of BMWs here, right there. And now. And that's 130 kilometers an hour. I have to stop it right here. So you see, you still have decent and enough power. So I'll zero the fuel economy or energy consumption out now. And the thing is always how to give an exact number here for a plug-in hybrid vehicle for the fuel economy is really always a very tough thing to do, because it so much depends on what and when are you recharging things, you know. Here just at cruise control on the motorway, when the combustion engine is on, then you know you score almost the same consumption as you would also do with the normal petrol engine. And however, it can be a little bit better when you have then situations, for example, switching speed, or then you see, oh, need to overtake someone, go off the throttle, then there's some recuperation happening and so on. So this can work depending on, you know, how you drive on the motorway or how's the traffic situations. Once again, here also at higher speeds, 120 kilometers an hour, so like 60, 70 miles an hour, so silent in this vehicle, also one of the best in the segment, so good noise insulation, and it has a very good motorway feeling. About the suspension, we talked about that earlier, and it is indeed good, I think. You know, I was a little bit skeptical before that they didn't put the adaptive suspension in this vehicle, but so far I think I'm quite okay with that, since it doesn't have this stiff M suspension setup. It's just lower, like the M suspension, but it doesn't have the stiff setup. I think that's a good choice to go for. So suspension wise, I'm also really happy. And this is a BMW, so it still drives sporty. Here, lane change at higher speeds, no problem. So it's really a decent feel. There's also, of course, a bunch of assistance systems. Here, the adaptive cruise control. Distance is being kept to the car in front of us. Only thing is, there's no blind spot monitor here available for the X1 and the X2. That's definitely something we are missing here for this vehicle, so I would really like to have that. Sadly, they did not introduce that in this facelift. So there's also traffic jam assist available up to 60 kilometers an hour. Luckily, we do not have that here at the moment. I got the warning when I'm getting to the middle of the lane, so there's like vibration in the steering wheel. And although I have to say it's not the biggest BMW SUV, but it's really feeling very good here on the motorway. And once again, the energy is not always lost here, just off the throttle. Again, some recuperation happening, and everything really in a, you know, flawless transition. So when I pick the eDrive here and go to the Max eDrive, then see here RPMs drop to 0. I'm all electric, and the maximum speed 135 kilometers or 85 miles electric. Of course, not the overall, it's like 185 or something, but the maximum electric speed. And I mean, we're here allowed to drive 120 kilometers an hour, so it's already close to it. But see here, I'm driving now at the moment all electric once again, and you hardly feel any difference, you know. Also because the electric motor is in the rear and the combustion engine is in the front, also then front axle and rear axle, and this gives then the all-wheel drive. They always again play together, so when you're driving all electric, theoretically you would drive a little bit sportier cornering wise, but of course if you combine the power, need as much power as possible, then you would of course use both. So at the moment we are both very low in the fuel economy and also in the energy consumption. low in the fuel consumption and in the energy consumption. And that again shows this, you know, playing together, and this can really make a lot of sense. So definitely also good motorway vehicle, depending on your commuting ways, of course. When you're driving cruise control a long way, it won't have the biggest effect here from the plug-in hybrid when you have situations like these. And then some driving off the motorway, where we also can test the normal driving modes. And there you normally have, you know, the normal Eco Pro, which reduces the throttle input, more efficiency, and also goes more into the electric mode. And then there's a Comfort, which is a setting in between, and then there's Sport, and this directly turns on the combustion engine, because in the Sport mode the car says, like, I want the maximum power of both drivetrains. And so you can also then vary that. So the throttle limit is also being increased. Steering here, let's see if that changes. Yeah. In sports mode, you have a little bit more resistance, so it's a little stiffer also from the steering. And in comfort, there's like a, you know, a normal balance setting. And once again, I think I'm really happy with the suspension here. The general driving setup they found here with this vehicle is really very good. So you have a neutral setting, it feels light and easy to control. This additional 150 kilograms of weight they have here with the plug-in hybrid, do you feel it? Not really. So that's actually totally fine. Here now at the moment, for example, the car once again just drives with electric. Yeah, you really feel it, you know, that it's coming from the rear, so it pushes you a little bit more out of the corner. So I really prefer to drive this one here all electric. At some point there will also be an electric X1, but the iX3, the electric X3, this one will come first. Here for the X1 there need to be an all new platform first, that this is actually enabled. And here is also a nice countryside route where we can once again drive all electric. And considering also other plug-in hybrid vehicles, this car is favoring the electric mode quite a lot, and I think that's, you know, also not too bad. Let's check it in the Auto eDrive. It says that way. Yeah, so you can easily also accelerate quite notably with the electric motor without the combustion engine hopping on. It's just really when you do this pinning down, then you actually have the combustion engine hopping on. I can also try it here once again when I'm reaching the threshold. See, a little bit more resistance there. So not all the way through. This was like on halfway or so. Then the combustion engine also hopped on again. So I think the driving is really superb with this vehicle. When we have the silent electric moments, to me even better. So here, especially now in city, just a small village here, you know, it's just silent from the inside, silent from the outside. That's really totally cool. If you compare, by the way, to the bigger X3, if you think about these vehicles, to me the X3 just gives you more comfort, also for tall people, you know, from a seat form, driving position. That's always cooler with the X3. However, X1 is actually better to park in and out. And driving fun-wise, you know, here the X1 is so agile, feels very, very good here, especially when slaloming. So that's very nice. And just from the energy consumption, at the moment 5.5 liters more kilometers and 4.2 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So that's this mixed calculation, and which would both be actually very, very decent. And now to our conclusion for today with the BMW X1 PHEV. From the exterior, of course, you don't see any difference. This here, the M Sport model with a definitely distinct sporty look since the facelift, also a stronger front grille, definitely. And on the interior, we see a quite nice build quality, not of course as sophisticated as with BMW X3, which is also more expensive. However, here with the M Sport model, with the plug-in hybrid, this is here more expensive, than 60,000 euros or dollars, so really quite costly intensive for a compact SUV. However, the interior is quite well usable. You know, when you consider exterior interior length, the only disadvantage of the plug-in hybrid model is that you don't have so much headroom in the rear bench. Other than that, still very well usable. As for the drivetrain, fun to drive. I think the setup here is very well optimized, yet you have a good playing together with the combustion engine and the electric motor, that you can really use the advantages. With plug-in hybrids, it's always the question, is this the worst or the best of two worlds? Here I think the setup is quite nicely optimized, so we also had, you know, now at the end of the day, some about 4.5 liters to 1 kilometers fuel consumption and 4.5 kilowatt hours to 1 kilometers energy consumption. And this is of course quite interesting, so it really helps each other. Then it's also a quite good use case, or when you have an electric commuting where you just drive electric and you can also put that in a driving modes and then recharge again. Yeah, definitely very interesting drivetrain, especially when you get some governmental subsidies, for example, or some tax benefits. And it is the most fun to drive, I think, from the X1, because you also have a rear-wheel drive only, if you like, when you're just in the electric drive only mode. And yeah, especially for BMW, that can't hurt. So very interesting impressions here from us today. Please leave us your comments there in the section about this X1 in general, and also if you think a plug-in hybrid would make sense for an X1, if that would be something for you. Also tune in to the other interesting reviews. We always link in the video description and in the pinned comment. See you there and see you next time.